the only reason why Paul is the Messiah is because he has the woman's powers. Like he can think like a
Exactly.
woman.
He can think like
Literally,
a
that's
woman.
the only reason why he's so dangerous. He's a
Exactly.
man that can think like a woman. Because otherwise,
Don't tell Steve Harvey that. Welcome back to the Millennial Classics, y'all. On this show, we talk about the best and most memorable movies, music, and culture-changing events from our generation. Mumbury, how you doing today?
doing good, doing good.
Today is very, very different. We have yet to do something like this, but I think the moment calls, right? It's the time, it's the situation. It is indeed an instant classic. At least I do believe so. We are talking about Dune Part 2. So right out of the gate, this is the first time I consider a movie that comes out an instant classic, an instant millennial classic. Do you agree? Why are you doing this with me? And just talk to me about the greatness of this movie, Dune Part 2.
I came out of this. My first thought was this is like Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. We haven't had a franchise like this for a while. I would say the closest you could say is maybe The Dark Knight. But the thing with the Batman movies is they're all so individual. Like you could actually just watch The Dark Knight by itself, really not know what happened in Batman Begins. Lord of the Rings is probably the last time you had a trilogy that was this complete, this well made. But I think there's some areas where it's better than Lord of the Rings, and there's some areas where it's worse. But yeah, this is top tier. Like you watch it, you're like, all right, this is amazing.
Yeah. So just right off the bat, you agree it is an instant classic.
I think it's an instant classic, but I also think it's one of those movies that it has to pair with the first one. Like
Oh,
I don't think you can
100%. Oh,
separate them.
yeah. I mean, because they throw you right in there, and this is a
Right.
great transition. So this is very much like the reviews we do. So instead of taking you back in the millennial time machine, let's just talk about Part 1, because Maburi is right. You can't talk about Dune Part 2 if you haven't seen Dune Part 1. For those folks who are watching or listening, just understand that this is going to be spoilers from the get. So Dune Part 1 details the journey of Paul Atreides as he navigates
Wadi.
that's my boy. As he navigates complex intergalactic politics after his family, the House Atreides, is betrayed upon taking control of Arrakis. This desert planet is the sole source of spice, the most important usable substance in this imaginary universe. The betrayal forces Paul and his mother Jessica to ally with the Fremen, Arrakis's native inhabitants. Paul grapples with visions of the future, hinting at a destiny that intertwines with the fate of Arrakis and its people, setting the stage for a rebellion against the oppressive galactic empire.
I see a holy war spreading across the universe like unquenchable fire. A warrior religion that waves the Atreides banner in my father's name.
We'll go back and talk about like how it relates throughout the review. But before we get into Dune Part 2, Mumbury, do you have the makings and ratings? Give me at least, I know it's been out for like, I think a week now, 2 weeks, but
Yep.
as much as we know so far, share with some of that goodness with us.
92% Rotten Tomatoes.
Boom.
Budget of almost 200 million, about 190. It's already at 380 worldwide.
Good on
So they're like, it's probably gonna.
Wait,
make
do you
its money
have the
back.
release date?
Yeah, February 6th.
Okay. So we're like going on week 3 now. Okay.
Directed by Denis Villeneuve. He's one of my favorite directors right now. He's made my favorite sci-fi movie. This is still not my favorite sci-fi movie that he's made.
Arrival. Yes, because you're a smart man. That, of course, it's just like
Arrival's a better movie than this.
whoa.
But that's me. And you can tell me Dune 2 is better.
Okay.
You can tell me you like Sicario better. I'd see that too. Just this guy doesn't miss.
It's kind of amazing. He's a great director.
Giant cast. It's one of those casts that in 20 years everyone's going to be like, damn, how did
they? Yeah.
How did they get that? And that's probably key difference between this and then the other movies that we mentioned earlier. Is those movies it's like, all right, cool. Legolas is Orlando Bloom, but who the fuck is everyone else, right? Maybe like, all right, Sean Bean shows up, but it's like we got Chalamet, we got Zendaya, we got Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh. Over under, I'd say 3.5 of the cast is going to be like future superstars. There are superstars now.
Exactly. I would
Just
definitely give it more for the future, because a lot of the folks that like Javier Bardem, like Christopher Walken, Josh Brolin, all of those folks are like actors in like, I don't want to say aging and they're getting up, because Javier Bardem still, I feel like he can still do it. This movie, like you said, 10 years, 15 years from now, it's going to be like Ocean's 11, right?
No,
Like,
but
what
see,
is
those were all those. Yeah,
they were all
that's
at their
tough.
peak.
Those were all at their peak. It's like watching Good Will Hunting now and being like, hold up,
Yes,
we got
exactly.
3 Best Actor, Director nominees right there.
How did you watch the movie? Was it IMAX? Was it regular? Was it
I saw it
Dolby?
in Dolby.
There you
I'll
go.
probably go back
Exactly.
and see it in IMAX. I will say this. Let's get the negatives of this movie out of the way to begin with. And this is spoiler alert, because we're going to spend the next hour just like jerking this
Dissecting.
movie off.
Yeah.
So yeah, the negatives. There hasn't been a white savior movie this big. Off the rip, I would say Pocahontas, but Avatar. Avatar is a bigger white savior movie.
It is.
And it's
yeah.
one of those things where it's like the white man knows how to teach these natives how to fight back. The natives are unorganized, but they have potential. And it takes a white man to lead.
No. See, that's already I want to disagree with you because first of all, going into the Fremen, even if you guys watched part 1, Jason Momoa left early to go meet the Fremen before the king and the prince and everyone came to the to Arrakis. And Jason Momoa, the first thing he said to everyone was, "These are the toughest fighters I've ever had to encounter. This is the closest to death I've ever been in a fight."
For 4 weeks, I lived with the Fremen. There's no finer fighter in the Imperium. They fight like demons.
And we were supposed to believe that Jason Momoa is this badass fucking warrior fighter for the Atreides. The thing that Paul says when he meets up with the Fremen, and he's like, "You guys know the desert? You guys fight like fucking animals."
Mm-hmm.
But I know the Harkonnens. So together we can bury these motherfuckers in the dirt, in the sand where they belong. So I disagree with you that the white man needed to teach them how to fight. It's just the white man needed to teach them how to fight the other white men. But you're right. Of course, this is the white savior of all white savior movies. They think of him as a fucking prophet from God.
2 other nitpicks is, dude. I mean, could you imagine Timothée Chalamet in the 90s being an action hero? Someone could just sit on him. He's like a step above a crackhead, right?
Stop. If you move your head to the side, because this is one of the things that I have noted, he looks the same size as Zendaya, bro.
Yeah,
I know
it's a tough look for an action. So when he's going toe to toe with Fade Rauta,
yeah,
I'm like FanDuel got plus 200 on that trading right there. The only other negative I'll have is they kinda yada the third act fight scene, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But those are the 3 main negatives that we're gonna spend a lot of time going through the movie and everything we love, and there's a lot. But I just want to call attention to that, because when we talk about it, think about the ending of The Dark Knight, think about Dark Knight Rises, think about Star Wars.
Even the ending of like the Lord of the Rings movies that you compared it to.
45-minute sequences, half an hour battles, Helm's Deep. These are like, you'll never forget those. And then here they kind of just yada it, and then they just show you a doorway with fog, and this dude walks out like it's Ibiza in 2024. and it's like, it's a sick look.
It is.
But you're just like, all right, come on.
But it wasn't developed the way you think it should have been.
I saw so many spice mining explosion scenes and fight scenes. I was like, you could have cut one of those out and show me a sick ending. And one of the positives I'll say about this, because this is a year of Oppenheimer. I mean, this is the year after Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. It's a long movie. Doesn't feel like it.
And that's something I did want to actually mention, because this movie was supposed to actually release last year. How many of the Oscars do you think this would have stolen from Oppenheimer? Cinematography, definitely, right?
No,
sound?
Probably not. Oppenheimer didn't win production, and it didn't win costume, and it didn't win makeup. I think it would have won, it would have gotten nominated for, I think, at least 6, maybe 8 Oscars. I think it would have been tough. Because
and I think it's so much better that it won this year, because I think, like, obviously recency bias. Let's see what happens 6-7 months from now. But I'm telling you, this has to be the front runner for at least, like you said, 6 to 8 nominations.
Denis is going to get a nomination for Best Director.
100%. You can't.
I think it's going to get a Best Picture nom, and then
the Best Sound
and soundtrack.
Exactly.
Score.
But let's get into the movie. The movie starts off with Princess Irulan secretly documents the possibility of Paul Atreides surviving the takeover that happened on Arrakis, while her father, the Emperor, stews over the failed coup against House Atreides. Listen, I have watched other folks' reviews and like discussions on this movie, but the thing that I don't like what people have been saying for our man, the fucking Emperor of the universe. What have you heard? Or is it just me, the people that I listen to, people giving Christopher Walken a bad name for this movie?
No, I think he was fine.
Exactly.
I think it suits the role a lot that you kind of see him as frail. The way you're supposed to look at him is he's really fighting for his life to hold on to power. And you can kind of see that he has to do all these like plots and machinations and secret alliances to just make sure he's still holding on.
I'm fighting for my life.
This isn't like a Tywin Lannister situation where he's firmly got his grasp on the Empire and everyone's going through him and everyone fears him. It's like, yeah, they fear him a bit. He's also just as afraid of them as they're afraid of him. Yeah.
I love that you just said that because Irulan, but the actress, what's her name?
Florence Pugh, the god.
Florence Pugh. Yes, she says that exact quote. My father loved the Atreides, Isaac, whoever the Atreides, Oscar Isaac's character in Dune Part 1, but my father has always been more in love with the control of power or whatever she says. That's exactly what she says in the beginning.
What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
And then we go into seeing Paul Atreides for the first time, and they are literally where we left him off in Dune Part 1. They're carrying Jamis's body back to where the Fremen hang out. We see the Harkonnens chase them down. We see them levitating fucking suits. We see them fighting. Like, it's such a great intro to a sci-fi movie.
Is it too early to have this conversation? Did Jamis die like a bitch?
God damn, it's not too early.
Is it too early to have this combo? Because we got the way everyone was talking about him at that siege.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like Jamis was kind of the man. That's embarrassing. Could you imagine if like the Pilgrims showed up and they try to fight your man and you're like, no, we got a guy out back that's going to wash you. And the Pilgrims brought out Timothée Chalamet, and you were like, all right, cool. We got this dude. He's going to wash you in like 3 steps. And then the guy just comes out and stabs your best dude, and you got to carry him back. Exactly. And you got to adopt Timothée Chalamet. That shit is so crazy.
It is crazy. But you have to remember, and this is the thing, right? I wanted to bring this up at the end, but Dune Part 1 was like a like a nothing, not a nothing movie. It's a
prologue. It's a aperitif. It's an
appetizer. It wasn't like a real movie, so no one really talked about it. But our big ending to Dune Part 1 was the fight between Paul and Jamis. Oh, well, they had the siege, right? But the actual ending of the movie was Jamis versus Paul. That was the climax of the end of the movie. I think that was their way of telling us this dude is a fucking warrior and the Fremen love him as a warrior. And then it also plays perfectly into the fact that when they get to the Fremen stronghold, everyone is like, this motherfucker killed Jamis. He killed Jamis. And then half of them were like, holy shit, the chosen one, the Mahdi. He killed Jamis. He's the one. I don't know how quickly you want to go through this, right? Because once they get to the stronghold, this is the scene where Stilgar tells Jessica that she needs to become the Reverend Mother and she needs to do the ritual of drinking that worm poison. And if she survives
the water of life, yeah.
Exactly, the water of life. Tell me how you felt about this situation. But we did skip over
it's a lot of plot building. If there's some parts you would skip and this like on your 3rd or 4th rewatch, it's this part because it's a lot of plot building and story building to lay kind of the foundation for when the story starts moving, right? Yes. You got to set up, how does Lady Jessica get the power? And then how did Paul get his training montage going to the point where he becomes Fedaykin? You know,
that's right. Part of the Fremen.
And that's the scene. And all these movies have that. If you remember Avatar, there's always that scene in the first third where he learns how to run and jump on a thing. And then it ends with him, jumping on the winged beast. And now he's the Avatar for Dakin or whatever. So they all have the same thing. And
a couple of things I want to talk to you specifically about. Jessica and her talking to the unborn child. How did you feel about that? And I know that you said this movie's a bit more nerdy, but like that was not so much more nerdy. That was like
That's a
fantastical.
deviation from a book. So
I did not know that.
That's completely different from the book. In the book, the sister, she's pregnant and the sister gets born. Now I'm gonna lose myself because I've read the book and I've also seen the original movie.
I am a messenger from Muad'Dib. Poor Emperor. I'm afraid my brother won't be very pleased with you.
How did you feel about this? And like specifically the idea of a mother talking to her unborn child. I thought that was
I thought it was weird, but
yeah.
I also think it's a good move because you have to have something that's weird about Lady Jessica that makes her off-putting, but also she has to be able to talk to someone. She has no allies.
She has no
right?
allies.
So
yep.
there has to be an inner monologue and a dialogue somewhere about her plan. Otherwise, you have to show. But if you can show her like with her baby in the shadows, which by the way, I don't know if she was an elephant or something, but her gestation period, her pregnancy was like
3 years.
I have no idea what was going on there.
I mean, they had like 19 sieges.
A blue whale or some shit. But I think most of the choices that they made were pretty good. Even that final battle was a bit different from the book. The movie and the book have different endings.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll get there when we get to the ending. Just one more thing. I absolutely love the Bene Gesserit. And this movie, it is very like stereotypical in that like back in the day, you know, we'll have this white savior come and like the men are the kings and the men are the people in power. But the amount of power that the Bene Gesserit hold in this universe, in this world, just brings so much joy to me because it is like the most manipulative. Like,
yeah, it's
they're the people with the strings. They're controlling everything.
You know what it reminds me of is if you remember like all those Arthurian stories,
yes,
like of the kings and queens, they all have wizards and witches that like work for the king, and they all have this same exact kind of role as a Bene Gesserit, where they're all super dangerous, so everyone's afraid of them, but they're also so useful. And if you're the only kingdom without it, you're kind of fucked. So now you have to use them. It's like a arms race kind of, and Bene Gesserit kind of play that exact same role in this.
The reason I love the Game of Thrones and the new show Shogun and the fucking Succession, when you become an adult, the thing that you understand, it's like money and power. That is what people are fighting for at the highest levels all day, 24/7. And now you don't just have the two houses that are going head to head. You also have the fucking Bene Gesserit that are a part of every single house that's making its own plan centuries in advance. So the layers to this is so deep, but it's so fucking amazing. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
And it's really cool because at the highest level, the Bene Gesserit have their own prophecy.
Exactly.
Right? That there's this Kwisatz Haderach, right? That this chosen one where they're breeding, they're taking all these males and they're making sure that the family lines align and all this stuff and proper training and everything, so that there'll be this male that can actually be a male Bene Gesserit that will be the chosen one. But at the same time, they kind of use the same exact Messiah prophecy
story
to pacify like the native people.
Exactly.
To pacify them. They give them this Messiah story, religion. This is who you're going to look out for. And what it does is pacifies them. They end up waiting so long. Like at the end of the day, there's nothing stopping the Fremen from taking over Arrakis at any point in time. They could have just done it, but they were all been waiting for this Messiah to come.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because at the end of the day, they could say that, listen, those guys are lower life forms. They're listening to this Messiah story. And Irulan was even like, that sounds like a bullshit story that we'd say.
Exactly.
Right? But at the same time, they believe in their own prophecy.
Exactly.
They're trying so hard to make. So what's the difference between them, right? They're lower people or whatever, but you guys are falling for the same trick that they're falling for.
Exactly.
And I just love that it ends up coming all together. Is it true? Is it not true?
Who knows? So we get into that training montage scene, but it started off with Paul and Shawnee developing this connection, right? Jessica passes her test. She becomes the Reverend Mother. And then the test that they give to Paul is you got to cross the desert and then you got to come back in X amount of days. And that just morphs into the longer training montage. But this is the scene where Shawnee, Zendaya's character, and Paul really start to bond and kind of fall in love.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
How do you feel about their relationship? Because it's such a cornerstone of this entire story.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought they stuck the landing. My question to you right back is, do you think the relationship's better in Dune or Spider-Man? Peter Parker and MJ. What's more believable?
Dune. Fuck out of here. Dune 1000%.
Yeah, I
Dune
think so too.
1000%. And I think when you say stuck the landing, I think it's an understatement. The scene of them sitting together on the dune and them kissing, I think it was beautiful. It made sense. It felt real, and it was such a beautiful shot. Villeneuve just 5 stars on that scene alone. I think they did it very well.
There's a scene later on that we have to talk about where I think Villeneuve's just in his bag, but we'll talk about that. I think we're actually coming down to it.
Paul fully embraces the Fremen way of life, learning the language, riding sandworms, fighting as the Fredekin warrior, and disrupting the Harkonnen spice operations. This is just like my quick synopsis of that entire situation, but I'm pretty sure that they jumped to the Harkonnen world prior to him riding the sandworm. Do you want to go to the Harkonnen world?
Yeah, we have to talk about that because that's the fade route, the intro.
Yes, yeah.
And it's so unsettling as a place. But when you see simple stuff like inverted fireworks and inverted light, and it's kind of like in this monochrome, the sun is black, sucking out light. It's super interesting when you see it, and you'll never forget it after you watch it once. It really just like tells you who these people are, because it's like these people are like really black and white. Like these people are fucking crazy.
Okay, can I just please set the stage, okay? Because when we go over to the Harkonnens' planet, first of all, it's Baron Harkonnen with Skarsgård just is so fucking good. He's so fucking good as the Baron.
So it's done, finally. Send word to Gady Prime to begin selling our spice reserves.
He's there. Everyone is there to see Austin Butler, the Fayed Rotha, fight these last 3 Atreides. The reason that the Baron's there is because it's some celebration of them taking over the Arrakis again. And the reason the Bene Gesserit...
It's his birthday.
Oh, yes, and it's Fayed Rotha's birthday. The Bene Gesserit is there because we find out that the Bene Gesserit have plans within plans, which means Paul Atreides isn't the only Kwisatz Haderach prospect. There's multiple throughout the universe, and Fade Rotha is the other prospect, and they are there to see if he has it in him. And that's when you get into that planet and fucking Austin Butler. You know, prior to this movie, all I knew is that he could play Elvis. But my God, does he shine as this character?
He does such a good Skarsgård accent in this. Raban, when Fade Rotha walks to the room, you can't be doing that. You can't be kissing people's feet.
No, you can't.
I'm telling you, as a Harkonnen, if I found out that one of my Harkonnen cousins kissed someone else's feet, they would never.
No, Murray, if death was the other option.
Nah, kill me. Kill me. Get that Cat Williams meme. Cat Williams meme.
And so during the fight, usually he fights folks who are drugged and drunk and whatever, but one of the Atreides prisoners is not drunk. And that last line that he gives when he finishes and wins the battle is, "You fought well, Atreides." As psychotic Fade Rotha is, killing his servants just without care in the world, having cannibals as his orgy partners. The respect that he has for the fighting, because the Baron's Harkonnen's perspective of power is the strongest always wins, and the respect he gives to this Atreides character is it's so good. I love that it makes sense. I love that as much as I hate him, I love his value for character. Power. Exactly. And then just the cherry on top of that, when he finds out that he wasn't drugged and he looks up at the Baron and the Baron does this with his arms, he's like, "Happy birthday." I'm like, fuck yeah. It's in the blood. It's in the family. It feels so good. It's such a great scene.
It kind of feels like an alternate Roman universe.
Yes.
They also do this thing in this movie. It's like all these movies do this where it's like, yo, he's got the most potent sperm on the planet Earth. It's like, yo, one fuck, and then Leia Sadu is over with the Bene Gesserit being like, "Yep,
I got the seed."
It's a boy.
It's amazing. And by the way, that Bene Gesserit scene where she's like, "Put your hand into the box," and the fact that they do it differently that they did for Paul Atreides, you find out that this dude is truly psychotic. He fucking killed his mother. First of all, it was like the weirdest, most sexiest thing. It was like the most sci-fi sex scene I've ever like seen ever, and you didn't see any sex. It was like just erotic. It was fantastic. Moving back to Paul, this is when Paul learns how to ride the sandworm, and Paul is given Fedaykin's name, Usul. Stilgar gives him, but then he chooses his own name, Muad'Dib, which is the little desert rat. I want to focus this part on Stilgar. He is so enjoyable in this movie. It's such a serious movie. Everything about this movie is so serious, but he brings so much joy, and you can just feel how much fun he's having throughout the movie.
Listen again.
It's just so naturally comedic. This is what you believe Stilgar is feeling all the time. When he says, so what if I die, right? If I die, if you die, that's fine. The future generations are going to come and they're going to keep fighting until the Fremen are free. And Stilgar's like, the Mahdi, he's too humble. Of course he would say that, right? When he chooses the name Muad'Dib, he's like, of course this is right.
He's a comedic relief for the entire movie. It works so well.
Listen again.
He's like the dwarf in Lord of the Rings, kind of.
Yep.
And it's just makes everything lighter.
The sandworm ride?
Amazing scene.
It's just a perfect scene.
Watch it in IMAX, people. If you can't watch it in IMAX, watch it in Dolby. If you can't do it just go see it in the movie.
In the theaters.
He meets Gurney on one of these ambush scenes.
Yeah.
Ambush raids, which is good because they've already set this up a bunch of times and how they get close to him. Honestly, a lot of warfare that we haven't seen before. A lot of suits that we haven't seen before. I like the floating and flying that the Harkonnens can do. Makes me wonder what the fuck the Atreides were even doing.
Yeah.
Because the Atreides just seem to be like, I don't know what they were doing. But
but you guys have to remember,
they were not prepared. They were not prepared.
They were not prepared. And remember, they were there for like a week before the coup happened. They literally landed, they were trying to get settled, and then the fucking Harkonnens were coming back to fuck them up overnight.
Great to see Josh Brolin back.
Yes.
And then he shows them the
nukes. They get straight into it. It's like, okay, nice to meet you again. What are you doing? You have 200 men. Do you know what you could be doing with 200 men? I got nukes, right? All I need is your DNA to open the doors and we could fuck up the Harkonnens. And they get right into it, which I really do appreciate.
So after he gets the nukes, they get attacked by Baron, who's now shown up.
Yes.
Right? He's now shown up on Arrakis. He's taken over.
Because Dave Bautista can't do the job.
Yep. And he's made him lick his feet, and then found the closest siege and just burned that shit to the ground.
Exactly.
Killed them all. So Paul's got to go south. And Paul has been having visions of a holy war every time. He really doesn't want to do it, but now he's forced to.
Did you follow that pretty easily? Did that confuse you at all? I feel like he's just digging deeper and deeper and deeper into the prophecy when he does have an opportunity to at least lay off of. He was laying on pretty thick.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that whole, I don't want to be the part of the prophecy, the visions? Go ahead.
My biggest thing was, how did he get a worm by himself? Is my question.
Oh, yeah.
Because it seemed like the whole army was like, yo, we got to take worms down south. And everyone would have like 30, 40, 50 people on a worm.
Each worm.
Paul's like, just solo.
YOLO.
I mean, how does that work? How's that combo? Nah, you guys, no one take this worm. I just need I need space to think.
Under an entire 1,000-foot worm.
They have this scene where Chinese watching Paul dip left.
And then this is where he drinks the blue juice.
Blue juice lady?
Dope.
Let me say, she needs a TikTok shop. And and she needs to be selling that shit. I don't know if she could probably sell that for, skincare. Something. Because that water looks too good. And you can't be taking care of worms and fighting worms on a daily basis.
And living
side hustle.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta you gotta do something.
What I'm assuming is getting young worms is probably a tough thing to do. So that's why it was like, do you really want to see it? And that's why she was like, they'll end up killing each other. When Jessica was there the first time and they were showing her the whole thing, which I thought like, it looks like a dance / karate to catch him. Everything about this movie was just so well done and meticulously done to the point where it's just believable. I believe that's her day-to-day job, and all she does is play with baby worms and suck out their juice. But he drinks the juice, and then this is where things like kind of speed up, where things happen a lot faster than I'm confused by. Does he pass out? And then how long is he passed out for?
So it's supposed to be a couple of months.
See, that's why I'm confused.
He's just a giant planet. They don't get around, but all of a sudden they had a helicopter.
Exactly.
China was just showing up. So there's a lot of inconsistencies here, and this is not one of those movies. It's not a Marvel movie where May 31st. Seat 16, and then it's like they don't have that shit, right?
Yeah.
So you don't really have a sense of time. All you know is
He passes out, and then
the
everyone
Reverend Mother is
comes.
still pregnant. So there's another part of the prophecy that Chani has to use her tears to revive the guy. She does. He comes back, and now this dude just becomes OP. He's a
OP.
mind reader. He can see
Yeah.
the future. He can see the past. And he's still getting his ass kicked. That's the thing. Like, if you can see the future, can you dodge a knife, dog? You're doing one-on-one battles and still getting stabbed. But
The speech that he does down south after he drinks the juice.
that's my honestly, that's my climax of the movie.
You
When
love that
he-
speech.
You know, there's a scene in The Matrix. Morpheus is looking at the screen and he can't believe what he's seeing. And he's like, he has become the one. And then, you know, Neo starts doing this shit. And then,
Yeah.
and then the perspective actually changes. And then the camera slows down.
Slows down, yeah.
And you can actually see the hands moving faster than your eyesight, right? That's what it's kind of like a shift in perspective. And that's what this felt like, because my man was like walked into that room, right? Everyone was expecting it.
Yeah.
And everyone had rules. And this man just said, shut up, sit down. Those rules do not apply to me. I am the Muad'Dib.
Yes.
I will read your mind. I will read your mind. You want Stilgar to sacrifice himself. Stilgar wants Stilgar to sacrifice himself. The elders want this to happen. We're not doing that.
No, thank
I'm
you.
going to lead you savages to the promised land. I'm going to take you bums that couldn't figure this shit out. I am your white savior. I am going to lead you guys to the promised land. I'm going to give you guys water. You guys couldn't figure this shit out because you guys are so dumb that you guys have a cistern of water that you don't touch because that's James's water or whatever.
It's sacred. Yes.
Sacred. I love that scene because it's literally like it felt like a coronation of the character and also coronation of Timmy Chalamet, because this dude is like the indie darling, right?
Yep.
He's in Wonka, which made
like teenage heartthrob, but now he's
right?
like a fucking.
But now it's like Leo and Titanic,
exactly.
Right? All right, yeah, I'm him now. This is me. I'm him.
And this is what I meant about him digging deep into "I am the prophet." He says it so clearly, and the way he says it is not just "I am the prophet, follow me." It's like none of you here can fight me. Yeah. None of you can stand up to me. I know you want to. Maybe you think you can do it, but I'm telling you, you can't because your grandmother died a few years ago.
In 88. Your mother died in 88. It was a Chevy, wasn't it? It was a Chevy.
But then right after that, it is the big ending. It is the big, because there's nothing else I could add to that. I think you described that scene perfectly.
It felt like that scene in Endgame where Doctor Strange is holding up that one to Tony Stark and being like, I saw 8,000 fucking things, and this is the one where that's what it felt like, because he was like, there is a way we can defeat the Emperor or whatever.
Yes.
He sends an Atreides letter to the Emperor. Emperor freaks out because the Emperor doesn't want the secrets to come out.
Yep.
It's his worst nightmare. At the same time, the Baron is like, what the hell is going on? Emperor's not returning my calls.
He just shows up.
He just shows up.
Yep.
You know what? Let's call the other houses because I need a backup plan. Because he can see the future, he launches the nukes, creates a giant storm, disables the shields. He lets the Fremen do their thing. They take down the Sardaukar.
Yeah, he has the massive worms distract most of the army, so they all go.
It's an amazing battle.
It's
about 5 minutes.
That's the thing. I think you're so right, because as cool as seeing all of those sci-fi battles, as cool as that was, cut one or two of them out and expand this end scene, make it like a true battle. Because the thing that I really appreciate about this movie is that they're honest about the smart and like the tactics of people at war. And the tactic, yes, he can see in the future, but the way that he went about destroying the situation so he can get to the Emperor was genius. It was genius. We'll have the worms distract most of the armies because that's the biggest thing. We'll have the sandstorm blast so they can't see us coming, and we'll use our nukes to make the storm even bigger. So it was genius in all of that, but you're right. As soon as you see the big blast, they cut to him walking in like they're in a pizza.
Yeah,
right? Like,
and he does this trick that Nolan did in Tenet. Tenet has a desert end scene, and it's almost like this, right? Where there's a bunch of people wearing brown, and you can't tell who's who. So what do? They sash shit on the side so you can follow the characters. And
Yes.
Chani makes this whole show of putting
About
like
blue
a
constantly
blue
with a
fucking thing
headband.
right
Yes, yes.
and I just realized it was like, oh shit, that's a Tenet move because Tenet
Exactly.
they do the same thing, red team, blue team, whatever. My main issue, and we will talk about this now, is the ending. In the book, this is the climax. It's this and then the toe to toe with the Emperor. And you just expect, it's the ending, but you're like, this movie's going so well. The pacing's been so good. It doesn't feel like a 165-minute movie.
Nope.
But no, give me 10 more minutes. Usually in these types of movies, when you make a plan, you kind of want to see the plan executed.
Exactly.
Like we saw Chani's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Would have loved to see Gurney's part of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I want to see them cutting their way through. And I want to see those guys panicking. And I want to see,
like the
Byron
worms
and
devour
Fade.
massive people. Yeah.
Fade in this entire time is literally just getting his fucking steps in, looking for a Peloton. Because he's not really doing anything. He's just walking back and forth, being like, "Oh, this is interesting. This is pretty interesting." They do this thing. Yeah, you hear fighting outside. Then he's like, the starter car go out. Fog happens. And you know exactly what's going to happen. You know those guys are going to go into the fog, and they ain't coming back out.
They ain't coming.
Paul's coming back out. And honestly, these guys got to be the worst security guys on purpose because they let Paul go right up to people's faces.
Yes.
They let him go right up to people's faces, and they let him just go up to Baron. I mean, Baron don't got his own security.
No, but the reason it makes sense is because they are in the Emperor's ship. So all of Baron's people are not on his ship.
Right,
so when they get to the ship, it's just Baron and Rayfad, maybe one or two of his people. But he's not going to bring his entire service upstairs to go talk to the Emperor, which I understood.
You're gonna but Fade's just going to watch his uncle get stabbed on the stairs. And Fade's watching that shit like, huh,
what's going on?
That is pretty cool.
But
Baron dies like a bitch, which he always knew was going to happen.
And he deserved it. Throughout all of this, you do find out after Paul drinks the blue juice, he then tells his mother, I know that you're the Baron's daughter. So then right before he kills the Baron, he just says grandfather and sticks that knife deep into his neck, which was epic. Which was fucking epic.
That's not how I want to die. You gotta shoot me in the face. You gotta stab me where I'm gonna die quick, bro. But
like cut your head off, like you think like an ISIS man. Like
you gotta have me doing this. You gotta have me doing this. The way the Baron is killing the women in the walkout.
Yeah,
that's how you gotta kill me. You can't be stabbing me in the neck. Yeah, and then that's a part. So the negotiation, and it's a bit different because the book kind of ends with him negotiating with everyone, and they kind of accept it. In this one, they're like, nah, fuck that.
Fuck all of that.
And then he was like, all right, holy war. But that's how this book ends. In the movie ends. In the book, it's kind of like that part where he's like, I'm gonna bomb the spice fields and end spice production.
Then everyone is like
shuts everything down. In this, it's not treated like a bombshell, it's just treated like a threat that everyone thinks isn't actually gonna happen.
A couple of things. You thought that Timothy Chalamet doing his speech down south was his coronation. I thought this negotiation was his coronation. He felt like he controlled the room, and surrounding him were the greatest actors of our generation, of this young generation.
And Christopher Walken.
Right? So, like, first of all, when he first tells the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother, like the OG Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother, silence, just oh my God, you feel it. And if you watch it in IMAX, your sheet starts to vibrate, and she buckles over and she's like, this is whatever she insults him by. But it's perfect, first of all. Second of all, when he's talking to the Emperor and he makes the Emperor kiss the ring, and the Emperor is taking his sweet time, and he stomps on the floor, and then he gets on his knee, it's just like,
I can't be an Emperor. Can't be an Emperor. Because I would be like, yo, I just had my ass like professionally cleaned by 16 people yesterday, and now I'm bending on my knees to kiss
a bloody ring.
I'm like, I'm old. I've seen enough.
Yes.
I want to go out on my last day knowing my ass was cleaned by 16 people.
16 people.
And not kissing rings. And so this is the second Dune movie in a row that's ended on a one-on-one fight.
Yes.
And I get it on the first one. I just think it's one of those, it's so anticlimactic when
Do you really think so?
Like, it's sick that they go toe to toe, but you know who's winning. And you also are like, all right, the Baron's sick. Chalamet just takes like a sword to the chest and just like brushes it off. That's not even the biggest dramatic part of the scene, is because the biggest dramatic part of the scene is he tells Chani, "I love you,"
Exactly.
and then he goes and says, "I'm gonna marry Florence Pugh."
Illyrian, whatever, however you pronounce the saying.
Right.
The
So
empresses.
that's the gut punch. The Baron fight is like, all right, cool. You know it's going to be cool, but at the end of the day, they just did we've seen that fight before.
Exactly.
I've seen that fight in movies a bunch of times. It's the most conventional part of this entire movie, but the surprise.
I'm
proposal,
gonna marry. Yep.
Seconds
after he's like, as long as I'm breathing, I'll love you. Gurney is like, the other families don't want to agree with you, and then he's like, let the holy war begin. Right? So
I'm like, dude, what are we texting? What's going on here? I am so confused. There's one box in the corner. Sometimes I'm like, yo, okay, what year are we in?
Yeah.
I'm like, we got suits that can float, but I gotta talking to a radio walkie-talkie that
and
one
it's like,
person
it sounds like a typewriter from the 16th century.
What are we doing?
When I was watching the reviews and stuff and the discussions of Dune Part 2, many people said that part of the lore in Dune is that they ban technology or ban computers or something. Yeah. So that's why everything is like very weirdly different, and that's why they need the spice for this extra powers of whatever.
There's like fear of AI and supercomputers, which makes sense. They have technology, but no computers. It's kind of weird because the whole thing with Dune is they have sword fights, but with shields. Explain it in the first Dune, and then it's kind of never brought up again. It's one of the coolest parts about Dune, and it's really underutilized. Just end this entire recap. This is one of those movies, more so than even Lord of the Rings, which was all filmed in at once. This should have all been filmed at once, because I think if it had been like 2022, Dune 1, 2023, Dune 2, 2024, Dune 3, all in a row. It comes out in November. The Blu-ray comes out in like February. It's on streaming in May. You've watched it 3 times. Then you see the trailer for Dune 2. And then in next November, Dune 2 comes out, and then the Blu-ray, and then the streaming, and then you need to see the trailer. And it's like that. I think it makes more sense. But right now, you watch Dune 1, and you're like, it does feel like Dune 2 needs to happen right now.
Yes.
And then Dune 2 ends almost like Empire Strikes Back, where it's like, damn, I gotta wait 4 years. But at least Dune 2 is its own complete movie. It feels like, has its own action, has its own thing. Dune 1 literally just feels like an appetizer.
Exactly. The climax, the end of the movie, was him fighting Jamis. But with all of that said, I am in love with this movie. I feel like there's levels to greatness in movies, right? You go see a movie, you're like, oh my goodness, it's really good. Let me tell somebody about it. That's like one level of good, right? It gets to great when it's like, I'm going to see it again in the theaters. And then it gets to like greatness to epic levels of shit when I now want to buy the book series and read through the fucking books, because I can't get enough of this world. I want to know.
The book is amazing.
And of course it is. Everyone and their mother has said it is, and it's been since the 1960s and the 1950s when it was first released. It's so amazing. I want to know so much more of this world. I can't get enough of these people, and I think the cast just did such a perfect job with this movie.
So the thing with the book, you don't feel like Paul starts cooking until about the second movie. But there's a point in the second.
What do you mean the second movie?
So in terms of the book, the first movie is about like a third of the way through the book.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Right,
okay.
And then like right where they end is, that's why the book people were so pissed, because like right where they end is when Paul starts cooking. That's when you start building that shit. You know, like in Game of Thrones, if you ever read the books or even watched the show, there's a point in time when Jon Snow starts cooking. Like when he's been shit on for so long,
yes,
there's a point in time where it just starts turning, and it's like, oh, he's got a great sword.
Yeah.
And then he's building something here.
Oh shit, he's back to life. He died,
and then he just came back, and he's gone off the wall. And then now it's like, oh,
I
shit.
see. This is the stuff.
Now I see what we're cooking here. They subverted that for so long. But at the end of the day, you do have to do the hero's journey. A lot of them stories, like Star Wars, starts out with the hero's journey. Lord of the Rings, it starts out with a task and the heroes presented, and then we go.
Yeah.
Dune is kind of tough, and Dune is kind of like the original sci-fi epic with that kind of delay that Game of Thrones also has, where it's like, all right, listen, like the hero is a loser,
It's kind of a
right?
punk. Yeah.
And his dad is a little bit of a laughing stock in the galaxy, right? And it's one of those things where they just take L's, literally to harken into like, yo, this shit was so easy.
Easy,
right?
bro. We wiped the floor with you.
The idiot older brother Raban was the one that took over. I mean, that's how easy this shit was for people. It's one of those things where, like, when you feel it turn, it's kind of right where the end of the first movie, which is honestly probably a genius move, but
for the
Danny,
series, but for
right.
singular movies, you're right. The first one does
kind of
feel
hindered the first one, but it means that the second one literally starts right on the
right
building
off.
blocks.
And just to capitalize on something that you just said about the weakness of his father, Christopher Walken, when he's like, your dad led with his heart, but leaders don't lead with their heart. And then, in other words, he was a weak man. That shit stung when Christopher Walken said that to Paul Atreides. I don't know.
But I tell you one thing though, he never kissed another man's ring. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
It really is the most disrespectful thing ever. Yeah, but
it's a stomp for me. It's a stomp. I cannot have another man stomp his feet
and make you get on your knees.
Irulan must have been disgusted.
No, but Irulan is the reason he's alive.
Yeah, and I like
exactly.
And I love like they do a good job of being like, yo, the women in this are really running shit. The only reason why Paul is the Messiah is because he has the woman's powers. Like he can think like a woman. Literally, that's the only reason why he's so dangerous. Exactly. He's a man that can think like a woman. Because otherwise,
don't tell Steve Harvey that.
They're literally like, we're training someone to think like a woman and open their eyes up. And there's literally drinks in this world that would literally kill men.
Yeah, if they attempted to. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a beautiful, and that's why I was starting out with the Bene Gesserit. But I think that's it for me. You guys, please, we've never done this before. When us, the millennial classics, are telling you it's an instant classic, take the time out of your day to watch the movie. Take the time out of your day to rewatch Dune 1 if you're really about that life. It's an epic. We're on something here. I don't know. Do you think that they're going to do this for each book? 2 movies for each book? Because that would be okay.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where it's like this was a 2-book thing, a 2-movie thing, and then if the second movie was like well received, they would do a third one that Denny's gonna sign on for. So Denny said he's doing it, but he wants to do a movie between the 2. So it's looking like probably 2028, 2027, if we're lucky, it'll come out. But I'm looking forward to it.
It can't be a 3-movie series. I mean, the book is what?
No, the books go on and on, but it's one of the things where it's like,
so you can end it wherever you want to end it, depending on how far you in the lore you want to go.
Yeah, I think it stops being the Paul Atreides story pretty quick. So,
see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I want to get into this world.
The hardcover is really, really good. I would just bring the extra money and get the hardcover. It's amazing. It looks great, and the pages are golden with spice. It looks really good.
All right. Any last words, bro? I think we did a really good job with this.
Last words are definitely, if you haven't seen this in movies, see this movie. This is a day one Blu-ray 4K buy for me.
Yes. Yes.
This is a movie that, I think is going to be a huge movie for us. I think it really does show our generation, though. It's nerdier. You have to do a bit more research. It's a bit more confusing, but it's like, it has just as much intricacies as a Lord of the Rings, as a Star Wars.
And like my thing is, for the bigger picture, Florence Pugh, Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet. I think like this, some of them people are currently saying are huge stars already, but this is the movie that you'll be like, holy shit, the springboard that just launched these people into the stratosphere stardom.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Dune Part 2 as that movie. Until next time, come join us to see Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter. And definitely don't forget to subscribe to our podcast where you will get all of these and then some. Catch you on the flip. Deuces.
Deuces.